All right, well, hello again to everyone. Thank you for joining the Ciena Solutions Challenge office hour today. This hour is dedicated to educators who want to learn more about the Ciena Challenge or plan to submit student projects to the Sustainability Awards program. Before we begin, I do want to mention that today's meeting is going to be recorded and shared with attendees and registrants. So please take a moment to take a look at your Zoom controls at the bottom of your screen. As attendees, you have the ability to turn on closed captions or live transcripts. So you can also chat your responses in the chat box because we'll be utilizing that pretty much today. But you do also have the ability to go on and off mute. You are muted upon entering the meeting today, but like I said, you have the capability to turn your sound on or off. You can also turn your camera off and on, so it's completely up to you. But one thing I just want to mention, if you recognize or notice that you might have some background noise wherever you're joining us from today, please be mindful of that during the meeting. And if you notice that some of the noise is getting a little louder, I just ask that you turn your audio off so that there's no crosstalk in the during the meeting. Give me 1 second. I'm just gonna enable the meet the waiting room so that I don't have to let people in. So now everyone should be able to join. All right, cool. So welcome again. My name is Carissa Bowen. I'm the Senior Project Manager for the Youth Voice and Innovation team here at Digital Promise. I'm joining you all today from Gaithersburg, Maryland. So I'm on the East Coast, from about 30 minutes outside of Washington, D.C. I, along with some of my colleagues, work really closely together to bring the Ciena Solutions Challenge to life. I'd love to learn who's in the room today. So using the chat box, if you don't mind sharing your name, where you're from, what brought you here today, that would be great. So just so we know who's all in the room, who's joining us today. We'll spend most of the time sharing details about the Ciena Solutions Challenge and addressing some of the questions that were shared in the registration form. As you are listening today, please feel free to share or to utilize the chat box feature. You're welcome to share any additional questions that you might have, maybe sharing something on a slide and it brings up a question for you. Please feel free to share that. You're also welcome to share any local challenges that your students are planning to address. Any tools or technologies that your students are considering leveraging in their designs, or any resources that you have found helpful to facilitate the challenge with your students. Whether you're a returner or you're brand new to this challenge, we invite all of your comments, all of your feedback. And if you just want to get to know another educator that's on the call today, that's also a place where you can engage. I'll be pausing throughout the time today just for breath and also to see if I can answer any of the questions that are in the chat box, but I'll wait. We do have a Q&A portion at the end of the towards the end of our call today. So if you want to save your questions to the end, that's okay too. So here's an agenda of what we'll cover today. We'll talk a little bit about what the Ciena Solutions Challenge is. I'll provide some guidelines and resources that you can use towards the challenge. I'm also going to share some recommended participation strategies, ways to get support and assistance from the Ciena Solutions Challenge team. We'll have, like I mentioned earlier, an open floor discussion or audience Q&A. And then I'll share some details about next steps. So I just wanted to kind of give you an overview of what we'll be doing today. And I'm just going to take a look at the chat box. Cool. So yeah, let's go right into understanding what the Ciena Solutions Challenge is. The Ciena Solutions Challenge is a global design challenge that invites students and teachers to design solutions to real problems and take actionable steps to build a better world around them. So maybe your students have an interest in exploring a big idea. Maybe there is a local challenge that they want to address, or maybe have addressed in the past and they just haven't been able to share their design or their prototype with someone. This challenge will essentially help them to design and innovate those solutions. So a little bit about what we do at Digital Promise. We ideally work at the intersection of researchers, entrepreneurs, and educators. And our vision is that all people at every stage of their lives have access to learning experiences that help them to acquire the knowledge and skills that they need to thrive in this continuously ever-changing world. And so the Ciena Solutions Challenge is a great program that we have been amplifying since 2021. So the challenge invites educators globally to apply for a $2,500 USD Sustainability Award. And in addition to the awards program, selected projects will be displayed in the Ciena Solutions Challenge online gallery. And I'll talk about that in the next few slides. So just a little bit about, what we kind of see as a benefit of the Ciena Solutions Challenge and having students participate in this challenge is that we understand that the next generation of problem solvers need real world experiences that really allow them to see the design world around them and its impact on people. We understand that students or learners need opportunities to collaborate and empathize across differences. And they also need to be able to develop a diverse set of skills that'll help them, again, to redesign the world around them. So we've understood and we've seen a lot of what the Ciena Solutions Challenge has been able to do for educators as well as students. And so we encourage educators and students to consider the intersectionality of the UN the Sustainable Development Goals and deciding on how learners will be able to make a positive contribution to their community. So a little bit more about the challenge. It is based on the Challenge-Based Learning Framework, or CBL. You might be familiar with Project-Based Learning Framework, which is very similar to the CBL framework. But this challenge is based on the Challenge-Based Learning Framework, where we ideally encourage students to identify and engage in a big idea, investigate what's needed to address the challenge, and take action to develop a solution. Educators will play the role of a facilitator throughout the challenge. And so that means providing students with the time and space to make mistakes, to learn from those mistakes through trial and error. Educators will steer student learning and provide support to student teams where necessary. And so you all are doing a lot of that already in your work. And so we ideally hope that this challenge will feed into your curriculum, into some of the lessons that you might already be doing. This challenge is not to be viewed as something extra, but as instead, we hope that this challenge will feed into some of the learning lessons and curriculum and sort of ideas that you're already sort of trying to integrate your students in anyway. So challenge teams may design anything from a product or a device, a campaign or a piece of media, a physical space or an environment, an experience, a system, or something else. You can surprise us, but ideally we hope that whatever it is that your students decide to submit, that it leverages or creatively integrates digital tools and technologies. So a little bit more information about projects and what can be submitted. We do accept prototypes. We are not expecting for projects to be fully completed. This Sustainability Awards program is sort of an opportunity for ideas and innovations to be sort of viewed as a way to get some seed funding if that is what is needed for the team to sustain and scale their project. So we are looking for projects that are potentially prototypes or blueprints So we do want to emphasize that you do not have to have a finished product, but we hope that your project will be able to show in detail. Students will be able to detail their process and share what they hope to be able to sustain and scale in the future. Um, you do not need to use the fanciest or most advanced piece of technology. I know that oftentimes when learners hear the word technology, it oftentimes may make it seem as though they need to use the most high-end piece of technology, and that is very, very far from what we try to encourage. We encourage that learners be able to utilize accessible pieces of technology that is accessible to them. So that could be a platform, it could be audio or video tools, something that they recognize as a piece of technology. And it could be, just depending on what is needed. We just want to make sure that it is accessible, so it doesn't have to be the most fanciest or the most advanced. So I want to make sure I emphasize that. All projects must be submitted by an educator on our website, which is www.cienachallenge.org. You'll see this hyperlink a few times today by the March 12th, 2024 deadline. And I'll also share more of these key dates at the end of our session today, so you can screenshot it if you need to. No worries, we'll be able to show this again today. So like I said, since the inception of the Ciena Solutions Challenge in 2021, we have received such really exciting and innovative student projects that tackle a variety of local community issues and address the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So from improving the preservation of cultural heritage through digital technologies to addressing housing and poverty issues through design, students are really creating potential solutions by engaging, investigating, and taking action on their challenges and leveraging, and through that, they're able to leverage digital tools and technologies. Last year, Digital Promise and the Ciena team awarded 20 student teams from 14 countries. So this is a list of the countries that we were so excited to be able to award. And we hope to award another 20 awards to student teams that demonstrate the components required in the Ciena Solutions Challenge. So here is a list of the awardees, and I'm actually going to share this link where you can learn a little bit more about the awardees on our website. So you can take a look at that at a time that is best for you. So moving kind of quickly, and just want to talk a little bit more about the guidelines and the resources for the Ciena Solutions Challenge. So here's just a very simplified list of what we're looking for. We're looking for student-produced reflection videos that summarize students' involvement in the challenge. We're looking for student-produced project portfolios that convey a clear social purpose in response to a local community issue. We're looking for projects that creatively integrate technology. We're looking for projects that show a strong case for funding, and this would include existing community resources. And we're also looking for a strong case for how the award funding will be used to sustain and scale the project. Lots of words here, and I will try to make it very simple. The Ciena Solutions Challenge, in terms of criteria, this challenge is open to any educator working with middle and high school students. So ideally, that is the education level between ages 11 through 18, or if you're based in the United States, it may look, or US grades ideally would be grade 6th through 12th grade. Educators must be affiliated with a public school, a private school, a registered homeschool, or a legally recognized educational organization. So that could be an after-school program, a museum, a youth agency. I think there was a question that came through the registration form that asked about a vocational school, and if that would be an acceptable or eligible school. And just to that end, as long as it is a affiliated or registered sort of school that's viewed as a school, we want to make sure that it's, just eligible in that sense. So just to give you some insight as to, what a school, what type of school can participate. Educators may submit student projects to be featured on the Ciena Solutions Challenge online gallery at any time. So we do have a submission form that is open now that you all can, as long as you are registered as an educator on the website, you can submit a challenge, you can submit a project, a student project, to the gallery at any time. There's no limit to the number of projects that you can submit. However, if you are considering participating in the Sustainability Awards program, you must submit at least one project to the online gallery in order to apply for a Ciena Solutions Challenge Sustainability Award. I'm going to go into the next slide and talk a little bit more about the Sustainability Award and what all is entailed in that. So the Sustainability Awards program, this is just talking about funding. The $2,500 USD Sustainability Award is intended to support participating schools and youth organizations to sustain and scale their projects and challenge activities in conjunction with existing community resources. So ideally, if your learners are looking for ways to sustain and scale their projects, we would ask that in their application and when you're talking with your students to really kind of ask them what kind of things do they need to support the advancement of their ideas. So that might be, they might need funds to purchase materials, to go on field trips, to engage in an experience, to buy future equipment. We ask that you kind of talk with your learners about what it is that they are really looking to achieve and be able to explain that throughout their portfolios and more specifically in the Sustainability Award application that you will submit on their behalf. Funds are granted to an educator's affiliated school or organization. If there is a situation where the funding cannot necessarily be given to the organization, we do ask that we can just kind of be able to directly provide that funding to an educator with authorization from the affiliated school or organization for the purpose of sustaining or scaling the activities that are outlined in the Ciena Solutions Challenge award application. So we've had a few instances where, again, the funding is not necessarily able to get directly to the educator or the learners through the school or the organization. But as long as we have, so if that might be your situation, as long as we have authorization from the affiliated school or the organization to directly provide that funding directly to the educator, we can do that. So I just want to make that super clear because I know that there might have been a few questions about what the funding is, how does it get to you, how will your learners be able to access it towards their projects. Like I said before, this is just a little bit more information about the awards program. So if you are interested in participating in the awards program and you haven't already registered to the challenge, I encourage you and urge you almost to register as an educator to the Ciena Challenge website to submit a project. From there, you'll kind of learn the dashboard and you'll see a few areas where you can submit a project and you'll be able to access the award application. I'm going to take a few moments to review what the downloadable version of the awards application looks like, and I'm also going to share it in the chat box. You can access this at any time, but you can, if you are just perusing the website, you'll also be able to find this link if you ever lose it. Applications for a sustainability award should be in English, but we understand that this is a global experience. So any outputs that showcase creative use of technology, so if that's the podcast, if that's a digital game, an interactive map, something else, those can be in any language. So they're not required to be in English, but if you are submitting a sustainability award application, that application should be written in English. And if you are in the awards application and you want to get a head start on it, those projects can be saved as a draft until you are ready to submit. So I just want to kind of mention that. So I'm going to share my screen. And you might have already been in this form before. This is a downloadable version of the form. This is not the form that you will use to submit. This is just the form that you can take a look at to see what is required of your students when they're submitting to the project gallery. You'll also be able to see what is required when your students are ready to submit a sustainability award application for their project. You'll also be able to see on this form the award judging rubric, which we really encourage for you to even share with your students so they can see what it is that our judges are sort of looking for as they are assessing and evaluating the projects that are submitted. So before I get there, I just kind of want to show you a little bit more of the information that we look for on the project gallery submission form that you'll see online. Project name, how many students worked on the project, a big idea, an essential question, your project description, what sustainable development goals is your team addressing. We do ask that they share a featured image, and that is it shows up as a little icon in the project gallery. The slide deck presentation, or also known as the project portfolio. There's a lot of information on what that looks like, but just to give you a heads up, if you want to take a further look into a guide of what that slide deck should look like, we do have a hyperlink here that can show you, sort of what we hope to see in a project portfolio, but we ask that your learners customize it, make it their own. The student reflection video link that I mentioned before, that is what we're looking for. There's a lot of help text here, but the main important part that you can share with your students as a resource is the student reflection tip video sheet. And I'm actually going to open this up so that you can see what your students will be able to use as a guide as they create their student reflection videos. So this is a really helpful tool that we've recognized that this is, kind of helpful for students to see as they get ready to create some of their videos. The other thing I want to mention about the video is that if your students I know that some students, depending on where you are in the world, might be on holiday, and they are unable to submit a reflection video on their own. As their educator, you are welcome to submit a reflection video on your students' behalf, just kind of synthesizing what their journey looked like. I know that has been an experience for a few of our educators in the past, just because students are unavailable or they may not be there, but as long as you as an educator are able to kind of submit something on their behalf, that's also acceptable. The Sustainability Award form, again, if you are interested in that $2,500 USC Sustainability Award, this is the information that we ask for as you start to complete your application. So it's very similar to what the gallery is asking, with the exception of this question: how does the project creatively use technology? We do ask that your students share a bit of information of what that looks like. But again, we're not looking for the flashiest or most expensive tools, but rather we're looking for how your students were able to creatively integrate digital media or technology that's within their reach or accessible to them, and how they strategically integrated it into their project. We also asked for a bit of information about case for funding. So how would your institution or your team benefit from this award? We do ask that your students be really thoughtful in thinking about how they would benefit from that. We also ask about what existing resources are in the school or in the community that your students will be able to utilize to sustain their challenge activities. And then there is a budget breakdown of how we hope to see how your students will be able to use this award. So if your students want to provide a breakdown of what each item will cost to create this final version of a prototype, include that. If there are specific experiences that your students want to do as a result of their work, and as long as it'll contribute to their projects, we ask that you include that. My recommendation, my personal recommendation for any educator or learners who want to participate in this is to be as detailed as possible. Give us the nitty gritty of what it is that your budget breakdown will look like, because it really does help with the judges being able to review their projects and be able to really kind of see what all is included. You can also share additional funds that your work might already have. You can also include that. So my best advice is to be very detailed. And this is, again, the rubric that I won't go into detail, but this is a little bit of what I mentioned before, and you can see sort of the percentages of each category. So reflection videos, purpose and message within the project and within the project portfolio, creative use of technology. We want to see how the technology was strategically integrated in the project, case for funding, use of existing resources, and use of award funding. So this is a great tool to really use as you and your students get prepared to submit a project. Like I said, that's the downloadable version. Your final application version is online on the dashboard once you register as an educator, and you can access that application at any time. So I shared a few of these resources already, but I'm going to just share them again. You have a detailed version of the project gallery sustainability form and rubric that I just shared in the chat box. Within that document, there's a student reflection video tip that you are encouraged to share with your students as they get prepared to submit their own videos. And one more really great resource that we have been able to provide as a team to educators who are interested in participating in the challenge. The Ciena Solutions Challenge team will provide feedback to educators and their learners with draft submissions from starting December 19th through February 12th, 2024. So this information can be found on the hyperlink, but I'm actually going to share, I'm going to share my screen on where you can find this information at. Give me 1 second. Okay. Can everyone see my screen? Okay, great. So this is what our website looks like. If you go to About the Challenge and you scroll all the way down, you'll be able to see the challenge timeline. But when you go to eligibility and submission requirements, everything that I just shared on that slide is here. As you scroll all the way down to under criteria, this is where you will be able to find the information of how we will be able to provide you and your students with feedback before the submission date. And this has been proven to be a really helpful tool for teams, because we're able to, kind of see what it is that your students are planning to submit and provide your students with feedback that will make their case a little bit stronger. So this is what a copy of the submission feedback worksheet looks like. It looks very similar to the application, but it gives you some information of what you can include. You don't have to have all the information if your students don't have everything sort of written out yet. You don't have to complete every field, but as the best of their ability, we do ask that they complete the application to the best of their ability. We also offer office hours, 15-minute feedback consultations with a member of the Ciena Solutions Challenge team. So if you're a person who would just prefer to talk something out with one of us, you're welcome to schedule some time with us using this link. You don't need to submit a draft to schedule office hours. You can schedule office hours at any time. But it would help if you did submit a draft, but it's not required if you just want to have office hours with a member of the team. So this is a little bit of more of what the application looks like. It looks very similar to what I just shared. So I'm gonna stop sharing that for a second. And I'm going to actually share that page in the chat box so that you will be able to access it. Where did my slide go? A second. Let's see. All right. So hopefully you all can see my slide deck. I don't think so. Sorry about that. Let's get back in order. Lots of tabs open. Alrighty, so you should be able to see my slide deck now. So like I said before, that draft submission feedback period starts December 19th through February 12th. So we do recommend that you share your project with us, even if it's just a few ideas. We'd love to see it. We'd love to provide feedback, and it really gives us a good idea of what is to come. And I think it will be really helpful to your students. So just a few recommendations on participation strategies. If you are new or returning to the Ciena Solutions Challenge, we have so many resources available at your reach. I'm going to also share what this page looks like in the chat box, because it's a great way to share this information or to have your resources available. We have a bunch of resources that will help you to support your students on their journey, including a facilitator's guide where you can learn more about challenge-based learning and how to run the framework with your students if this is your first time doing it. Like I said before, we're not expecting you to use the CBL framework completely. If you just want to use pieces of it, that's okay. But again, the main focus is that your students are engaging with a big idea, they're investigating what is needed to address their challenge, and they're taking action pathways to, again, be able to submit a prototype or a project. We do have monthly webinars available for educators who want to learn a little bit more about the challenge from an educator perspective. For the last few months, we've been facilitating, or I've been facilitating some educator panel discussions where educators that have participated in the challenge have been able to share their stories and share their guidance on what their sort of challenge journeys look like with their learners. And we hope that through those webinars, that it excites educators, it motivates them to want to participate, and it's really coming from folks that have experienced it already, in some cases 2 times in a row. So we hope that those webinars are helpful to you. They're also available to watch as a recording on our website. So you're welcome to view that at any time. We have a video learning series available on our YouTube channel. And the video learning series is, again, a few videos that we have recorded in the past about the challenge. We welcome you to share those videos and associated transcripts with maybe an educator that you know might be interested to participate with you. Or if you want to kind of get some more information on your own, want to share them with your students, that's okay. But it is an opportunity to have some asynchronous learning on your own. In terms of activities for students, we have a slew of engage activities, investigate methods, and action pathways that are available for students to use throughout their challenges. So that is another resource that is available. And because this is a global challenge, we're really passionate about providing resources that are translated in different languages. So I want to share most of these resources that we have are available in different languages. I just shared that link in the chat box. So we're trying to update the languages every year, and we're always looking for new ways to be able to support educators around the world. So please utilize the resources tab on the website. There's so much information, and sometimes it can be potentially a little overwhelming. So if you fall into that area, please feel free to email us or send us a note. We're always trying to help where we can. If you have just a few more details about integrating the challenge into your school. If you're wondering if 2 or more educators can work together as a team to submit their projects together, the answer is yes. You absolutely can work together as a team to submit a project with your students. There is some information about this in our frequently asked questions, and I'm actually going to make sure that I provide the right information. So just give me a few seconds. So educators from a school or organization are welcome to form a partnership when enrolling in the Ciena Solutions Challenge. So if you're interested in participating in the challenge with other teachers as a small group or a partnership, just consider how you will support students to collaborate. So note that educators from the same educational organization may submit entries to the Challenge Awards program, but only one winning entry from a single educational organization will be selected to receive the Sustainability Award. So just keep that in mind when you're considering, if you are considering collaborating with another educator on this challenge. Are past awardees eligible to participate in the challenge again? The answer is yes. Past awardees are definitely eligible to participate. To receive an award again if they are proposing new project activities or new challenges. So just to keep that in mind for anyone who's on the call that has been an awardee in the past. And can I share this challenge with my whole school? The answer is yes. We encourage you to share this challenge with your school. And if your school is considering participating, again, it's similar to the first question. We want to make sure that you all are thoughtful in thinking about how to separate your students or to form smaller groups. We've seen groups of 5 students, and we've seen several groups of smaller students, several groups of student teams that have submitted projects to the challenge. So it can work in a way that makes sense for you if you have a class in one semester and that class participates and submits a challenge, and you have another, you know that you have another class submitted for another semester or quarter, they can submit a different project, just with the caveat that, we are looking to provide funding to the educational organization, and we can be able to support those learners in a way that makes sense, but just be thoughtful in how your students are kind of organizing themselves, and it's completely up to you on how you do that as an educator, because you know your students best. So just kind of keep those things in mind. This information can also be found at the hyperlink below. I also want to share just a little screenshot of what the project gallery looks like. So once projects have been submitted to the challenge, or just submitted to the gallery, this is a full list of what projects look like in our gallery. So it's really nice to see this full spread of projects that have been submitted. You can filter, you can take some time if you'd like to filter out the countries that have participated, the years, the project years that we've been running the challenge. You can filter by sustainable development goals. You can also just type something in. You can view it as a list form or as an actual gallery. So you're welcome to take a look at this, and even, share it with your students as inspiration. We also, again, have a list of the 2023 awardees, and it's a little bit more focused on what countries participated, what projects they worked on, the educators that participated in their essential question, and there's a nice hyperlink that takes you to the actual project that was awarded. So this is what it looks like if you're just viewing it on your own. So educator support and assistance. If you have more detailed questions about your student projects, please email us. You can email me directly if you have emailed me before. You can also email this hyperlink, this website, sienachallenge@digitalpromise.org. That will, we basically as a team view that inbox, and a member of the team responds in at least 24 to 48 hours. So please email us with your questions. We like to receive them. No question is too small. If you need another piece of support or just looking for feedback, we do invite you to ask us questions. You can also, again, share your draft submission with us using the draft submission form beginning December 19th through February 12th, 2024. And like I mentioned before, you can schedule a 15-minute feedback consultation with a member of the Ciena Solutions Challenge team using the link here. This link can also be found on the website. And again, you do not need to submit a draft to schedule a consultation. The consultation is open to anyone who just wants to share some ideas and get some feedback to support your learners. So I'm going to take a break. We have some time to answer some questions. I'm going to stop sharing for a second because it helps me to actually see faces if your cameras are on. And it's just helpful for me to kind of take a break for a second. So I'm going to look through the chat box to see if there are any questions. But you are at this time welcome to share a question out loud if that is helpful to you too. You're welcome to come off mute and ask a question.
I would like to ask if you can send us kind of summary about the deadlines that we have until the presentation of the final. Well, you have already said it, but is to me not too linear to see. No, I mean we are in end of December and we have time until March. So what are the let's see the the milestone? Let's say in that way.
Yeah, so I think what I'm hearing is from your question is more about how, like, if you can see what your students should be doing at each time. Is that where you're asking? I think you're on mute, Carlos. Carlos, I can't hear you. I think you're on mute.
Okay, no, I was just more asking about the milestones. I mean, if the students they have to complete some form in that date and the other one, so just to follow more or less the idea that you have for the project.
Yeah, I think yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm gonna share the about the challenge page with you. If it's helpful at all to everyone, there's a challenge timeline towards the bottom of this page. And the bottom of the page just shows you just a few dates, a few significant dates. So September 5th is when we opened up the portal. And that, again, that's access to the application. You can access that at any time. The submission portal closes on March the 12th, 2024. So that's the deadline of when of when projects should be received. And then in April 2024, the challenge awardees are announced. So there's not necessarily milestones that we pre-prescribe because we understand that your students might be just learning about the challenge a month before the challenge has a deadline, and we still invite them to participate. We don't necessarily we try not to provide a bunch of areas of where your students should be because every group might be in a different situation. So what I do recommend is to follow the deadline and kind of use that as your marker for when the projects are due. I hope that's helpful. We don't necessarily have areas of where your students should be because, like I said, every learner is different. So we try to make it a little bit more flexible so that more students can participate at any point, even if it's a week before the deadline. We do invite everyone to participate. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? I shared a lot, so I'm sure you might be just thinking about it, and that's okay. Are there any other questions about the submission, about the application? There was a question that was directed to me a little bit more along the lines of how students can participate on a webinar to assist or offer advice to other educators and students that are looking to participate. And I just want to share one way that we have been doing this in the last 2 years of the challenge. We have an opportunity called the we have a virtual event that we host. We've been hosting in the last couple of years. It's called the Youth Made Festival. I'm going to share this in the chat box, a link to the website. But the Youth Made Festival is ideally an opportunity for youth to be celebrated in sharing their projects and sharing their ideas. Not just students that participate in the challenge, but students from everywhere. So if your students are just creating content throughout the year and they needed an outlet to share it, the Youth Made Festival is a great way to do this. If you want to take some time to look at the website, I would encourage you to kind of see how your students can get involved. But in regards to the challenge, we have had student panels that have participated in the challenge in the Youth Made Festival. And those student panels have been student panels that have been awarded the Ciena Challenge. And so that is an opportunity that we amplify a little bit after the awardees are announced in the next year, so that first, we know what students will participate. But even if your learners are not awarded, we still invite your students to participate in this opportunity because it is for them to be celebrated. It's for them to share their learnings, share their experiences, what they've created throughout the year. And you can host it on your own. But I will say that in regards to the Sienna Challenge, we have been inviting some student teams. In the past, it's been student teams that have been awarded the Sustainability Award, and those student teams are kind of all grouped together in a panel where they can talk to each other, which is really exciting. Learners from different parts of the world can just see that there are other people that are doing similar work to them or addressing similar challenges, and we do that during this time. And it's completely student-led, which is what I love to see, because it just puts us in the backseat a little bit as adults, and it puts them in the front seat as speakers, and it just motivates them a lot. So we'll share more information about what that looks like in the coming months. But if you are just interested in joining the Youth Made Festival, you can do that at any time. I would invite you to take a look at the directory and just sign up. Once you sign up, you'll be added to a newsletter. And the folks that run the Youth Made Festival, they have regular webinars of how you can participate. And I think they have webinars like every month or maybe weekly even. So don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure that that information, once you sign up, will be shared with you. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, Carissa, we would have loved to participate last year, but we were right in the middle of state testing.
Yeah.
We had fallen in a different time during the month, but it was.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Thanks for joining today, too, Jose. I don't know if you want to share a little bit more. I know you participated in the challenge last year, so it would be wonderful if you want to share more about your experience as an educator in the challenge.
Sure, sure. I very want to encourage everyone, to all my educator friends around the world. It's exciting to be part of this group. It was just an awesome experience. The kids got together and they developed an idea, and they worked together. They created a video, and the whole process was just exciting. And then, we didn't think we were going to win, and then to be surprised. So I just want to encourage you. And I'm just a firm believer that it's their voices that are going to change tomorrow. Us old people, myself, I'm included, kind of mess things up a little bit. And I'm looking forward to the vision and the ideas of our kids for tomorrow. Yeah, so I definitely encourage you.
Thanks, Jose.
Just to summarize, I have already a team of 2 students who are working in a project, and just for the applications, I have to fill the form as a teacher and the name of the 2 students who are taking part. Okay, no, and then I guess I I have to submit all these forms together or one after the other, or how does it work?
Yeah, so I think it might be helpful if maybe I show you the online version of the application. Would that be
Okay.
helpful? Let's see. I'm gonna share my screen really quickly. Just to see what you'll be able to see. So once you log in, if you're already registered, that's great. If you haven't registered yet, please do that. Once you register, you will be led to your dashboard. Your dashboard will look a little bit different than mine, but actually, let me see. So you'll go to my submissions. Actually, give me 1 second. I'm gonna go to a different username. Let's see. This should work. Okay, so this is what you should see on your dashboard. Where you go to submit a student project, you'll start to submit here. So this is the application that you'll fill out. This is a application that basically is for the project gallery. Once you submit all of this information and you complete it from top to bottom, you'll go to save to draft if you're not ready to submit, or you'll click submit. Once you click submit, you already have one project that's in the queue. And if you are wanting that project to be considered for a sustainability award, you will be led to, basically you'll be led to the sustainability award application. Because I don't have any information here filled out yet, it won't necessarily show that to you. But this is like an example of what you might see. This is a lot of test projects that I've created, but this line this button right here, once you have one project submitted or several projects submitted to the gallery, you can start to submit an award application. So the award application is where you'll take those projects that you submitted to the gallery, and you can basically, like where you see what challenge projects do you want to sustain or scale, those projects that I had on the previous page, you can include those projects in this box right here. And then complete more of this application to be considered for a sustainability award. So one other thing that I want to mention is that for each project, if it's a different project, each project has a different reflection video. So you have one project, say your example is your students want to address housing and poverty. So you would click that here. Their video for that project will go in this link.
Okay.
If you have another project that's about something different, that project name would go here, and the student reflection video for that project, the URL will go right here. And you'll continue to kind of do that for each project. And you'll share all of the information that's needed that I shared earlier about your case for funding. All of that information will go in here. The downloadable version of this application is just used as a guide. Those are not the final versions. This is where you will submit your final application. So this is what you'll be able to see. I hope this is helpful.
Yes, I have I have a question. The video should be in English when they try to look for the sustainability award.
Yeah, the videos do not have to be in English. The videos and any outputs, anything that they create, they don't have to be in English. The application itself should be written in English.
Okay.
So anything that your students create is not required for it to be in English. We've had a few Spanish or like different languages be submitted in the past in terms of output, but that's not what we look for. We look for the applications to be written in English, but not the things that they create. Those can be in any language.
Okay, then it could also be, let's say, in English with subtitles in case they don't pronounce it
Absolutely.
well.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That does help the judges kind of review it a little bit more with a keen eye. So yes, if it's accessible to them to create subtitles in English, that's great. That's really helpful to us.
Well, we prefer that they present the video in English and with the subtitle, just in case the pronunciation is
Sure.
not too clear, because
Sure.
we're trying to force them, especially in the technical issues, no, that they have to speak English. So it's that's
Yeah.
also a good opportunity of learning.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm.
I know that we are at time. I really appreciate you all staying on a little bit longer. If you all just have a second to just look at these key reminders and next steps. If you haven't done so already, please register. Once you register, you'll be added to our biweekly newsletter. And in that newsletter, we share updates pretty frequently about the challenge. These are just some deadlines that I shared earlier about the submission portal. It's already open. Please go in there, get nosy. You can look at everything, start something, save it. Share your draft submissions with us between December 19th and February 12th. You can find that information on our website of how to submit that. The submission portal closes on March 12th, 2024, and we'll plan to announce awardees in April 2024. If you have any other questions that I haven't answered, please take a look at the FAQ page on our website, or you can email a question to us directly to this website. I'm sorry, to this email address. So if you want to screenshot it, now would be the time. But you can also, again, ask us at any time. So thank you all so much for staying on and hanging on with me. I'm happy to share any other details. And thank you again, Jose, for sharing your experience. I'm sure it was really helpful to the educators. So thank you.
Okay, goodbye.
Thank you all. Take care.